All right, Curt, you want to tell us a bit about yourself and how you got to where you are today?
I got in the restaurant business to put myself through school and never finished school, so I'm still in the restaurant business. Um, it is a career that chooses you. You don't choose it. I've seen a lot of people try and work their way through the ladder and fall off. And a few of us have stuck on and hung on. But I got in the business. I love doing it because it's a different situation every single day. I don't have to worry about being bored. There'll always be something to do with this business. But I started off washing dishes and worked my way up, and now I'm running the company for a franchisor of a couple different franchises and enjoying my life.
Yeah, I mean, you've so many franchises. I was like on the website and I was doing obviously a bit of homework in advance, and it's like, oh, there is a lot, and like there's quite
Yeah.
like a range of them as well. Um, I guess given that you have so many, I think this question actually will be quite interesting for you, which is like, what do you think then are sort of like your three biggest like roadblocks for like success at the moment?
People's always a roadblock. I mean, people's the biggest one. You got to bring the right people in. You've got to have the right people working for you, and you got to be the right kind of person that people want to work for. So it really comes down to uh, you know, a vicious cycle of what do you want to get out of people and what are you willing to give to get that. And it took me a long time to figure it out, the combination, but we've surrounded ourselves with good people, and we still have challenges. Then you get the right people in place, and then it's teaching them how to run the restaurant and how to do their
Yeah.
job without being the only one doing the job. So trying to teach people the same lesson I had to learn. Once you get to the next level, you got to let go of what you used to do and train someone to do that. So I think people and training are the first two big obstacles when it comes down to it.
Yeah.
Development falls in there, and now the beautiful caveat of purchasing.
Yeah.
Trying to find the right contracts, and once you find them, hoping the food shows up.
Yeah. And I suppose with the contracting stuff as well, like, is that a reference to like inflation and just the prices of like goods, like for the restaurants in general, or is that just the nature of negotiation?
Inflation's a small part of it. It's really supply and demand. Most
Yeah.
of the companies closed down during the catastrophic couple of years we've had.
Yeah.
They've lost employees. They can't keep up with velocity. So really trying to find the right price for items used to be the only thing. Now you got to find the people that can actually control your velocity and make sure that they can fulfill what you need to
Yeah.
purchase in order to run your restaurants.
Interesting. And then, I mean, I guess you also mentioned that like people and training development being like your kind of one and two, kind of they're kind of same side of the same coin. Like, do you think that that's like a kind of geographical sort of issue to find that kind of talent where you are, or is it just like the type of quality candidates that you're looking for, the sort of promotable kind of candidates? Like, how do you think about that?
Geography's tough. I mean, we operate in a lot of
Yeah.
small towns, and that obviously makes it difficult because you have a really small hiring pool.
Yeah.
But that gives you the chance to develop somebody who you might not have hired in the first place, and you find these little diamonds in the rough, which I've found in a lot of small towns. As
Yeah.
far as the big towns go, when you've got a lot to choose from, it's choosing. It's almost like I'd rather stay with the devil I know than bring in
Yeah.
somebody else, because
Yeah.
I know what I have, and I know what their shortcomings are, and I know I can help fix those things. Whereas when you bring somebody in from the outside, you're bringing in a whole different variable, which could be great for your company and could be also catastrophic.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I hear that a lot that like hiring for say, especially like say post COVID, is
Hmm.
like hiring that sort of like manager type level to like run like sort of like the restaurant itself. It's very hard to like find that person given that they have to hit the ground running immediately and the time it takes to bring that person in and get them ready. And also, I hear a lot of people mention to me that basically, because they're so in demand, that type of character, that it's very hard to like keep those people as well. That there
Hmm.
seems to be like a faster turnover of like a managerial class within restaurants and franchises. Is that something that you see as well, or like is that something you have to contend with?
Oh yeah, no, you're constantly fighting that, and I find that when you get into the bidding wars or the people that jump from place to place, it's an
Yeah.
interesting conversation. I had this conversation actually last week. they're jumping ship for $5,000, which works out to be about $70 every 2 weeks. And it's
Yeah,
like, quality of life, quality environment to work with, quality people to work for is way more important than $70 every 2 weeks. And that's a
totally.
tough one to try to get through people's heads. But I let people go when they want to go chase that little, that little nugget, and they think that's going to be the greatest move of their career. And I also tell them when they first give me their notices, like, hey, make sure you don't burn any bridges on your way out. And as long as you do that, the door is always open to come back. And that
Yeah.
usually gives me a nice exit plan with them. And then, of course, I get that phone call about a year later or maybe 9 months later where they want to come back and the door's open.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's interesting because it's like a, I guess that's like a real mitigation for retention of like that kind of stuff. Like, do you have like a formal process for like how you kind of manage your sort of retention and churn of like managers and hourly staff, or is it like this, like, you got that sort of nuanced kind of, vibe check, it sounds like almost.
Yeah, you're constantly looking for the next great person to join your team. I mean, you never meet a 5-star employee when you need a 5-star employee. You always meet them
Yeah.
when you don't need anybody. So you got to have your eyes open. You got to have your ears open. You got to be ready to bring somebody in, and that's a great problem to have. Is trying to figure out where to put this great person. But if you close those doors to hiring and you think you've got the right staff, sometimes you get stuck with the wrong people for a long time. And one of the things we found out coming out um, of the COVID was basically, some of those people that we've held on to for years and years and years were actually gatekeepers and stopping you from building your restaurant to what it could be. So we've
Yeah.
had to part ways with some 12, 15, 20-year employees, and as sad as it is, it ends up being something good in the long run. And
Yeah.
sometimes you need to make that change, and you need to go through. And I've done it with managers and all the way down to team members. But when I
Yeah.
moved one manager out of a restaurant, all of a sudden you see the sales grow like 12%, and you see the retention of your staff grow, and then you look at yourself and go, and I wasn't providing a good environment for my people.
Yeah, that's fair. And I mean, it's interesting that it takes sort of like a macro kind of bomb. I don't know how, like meteorite, whatever you
Yeah,
want to phrase like that to like see that. But it's obviously very difficult to see like, the wood through the trees in that context because like you're also thinking about the devil, in the sense that you have the person that's there already, and it took that to like move it into the next place. And obviously, like you're saying, like an increase in sales. So like it has kind of ultimately worked for you. I think, when you think about that and you think about like that as like a job market where like there's just a pool of talent that you're trying to tap into, and it's like, how do you find those kinds of like people to kind of come in and like, you know, mm, like 0.5x your business or whatever in a period of time? Like, how do you look at say the job market for like hospitality, for like your entry level and for your managerial? Do you think it's like hot, or do you think it's like not hot? I'm
you, you
curious
know,
on like the job market.
it's interesting, whenever I put an ad out, whether I need a manager in every town at least twice a year for a little 2-month run just to see who's out there looking for jobs. I just
Uh,
constantly keep it rolling so that whether I need someone or not, I know who's out there and who's looking. To me, reputation is the most important thing. If you've worked in town for a while, like let's say up in Oregon, you're in Grants
yeah,
Pass. It's a small town, small community. You're going to draw from a few towns around it, but they're going to have a reputation in town. People are going to know them. That's more important
yeah.
to me than the resume, because I want to know that they've connected with people, that people look back. Hold on, one of my guys thinks I'm stuck on the side of the road. He just
Okay,
drove by me. Sorry.
that's okay.
He just said I'm turning around to see if you're okay. All right, that's consistent though, right there. That's my DO. All righty, so to me, a reputation is way more important than a resume. If I look at your resume, that's important, and I want to know what you've done and where you've been. But
Yeah,
when I do an interview, it's more about the person than their experience, because I want to hire people that people want to work for. I want to hire people
yeah,
that are going to be with me for a while. And sometimes those pretty resumes, it's a 2 to 3 year commitment. And that's nice, but I'd rather have someone for 7 to 10 years and not have to worry about a
yeah.
restaurant for that long.
So what are the things that you think go into like reputation? Like, as in there must be indicators that you look at somebody when they sit down, like nice guy, great guy, but like, are there specifics?
I look for consistency. I look for, what's more important to them was, like the ones that throw their numbers out there. Those are nice, but I key on development. I had an interview when I was young in my career where they asked me about one of my one of my wins and one of my losses when it came to development, and I had those and I kicked them right out. And he was shocked. He said, "No one's ever thrown two names at me that quickly." And I said, "Well, I think about those people all the time."
Oh,
And he goes, "That's important." I said, "The person I failed the most, I wanted to make sure I took care of her. I got her into the next career. I helped her, and I've paid attention to that person because I feel like I failed them." Whereas the same thing with the person that I helped the most, we talk probably monthly,
yeah,
and sit down and go over how we're doing in life. And we're not even working for the same companies anymore. None of us are.
yeah,
So it's to me, if someone's got that in their DNA, that's the kind of person I want to work with.
yeah. And so I suppose on top of that, like given like, we've had a post-COVID sort of experience, and it seems to me that there's like a bunch of different sort of behaviors and trends that have kind of infiltrated the sort of hospitality space, and the expectations and the norms have changed. Are there sort of trends that you're noticing in the types of people that you're hiring, or in the types of things that they're looking for to like run your restaurants or to like be your hourly staff?
Yeah, I think the post COVID hiring is interesting because you get a little bit of two different groups of people. You've got your old timers that have been doing it for a long time that kind of had a reality check during COVID, maybe lost a job they had forever and turned
Yeah,
around and they're trying to rebuild themselves. Then you got the younger guns that are coming in that are seeing how things need to be done and they want to change things a little bit. The younger crowd's interesting to me because they feel like, every interview you do, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And they go, "Oh, I want your job." Well, okay, that's cute. That's always in there. But this younger generation thinks that's attainable. They think, hey,
yeah,
if I do a year at this job, a year at this job, I'll have your job, and then you can move on and retire because you're old. It's like that's their mentality. It's interesting. It's like it's not that easy. It took me 20 years to get where I was, and they think
yeah,
they can do it in 20 minutes. And it's a nice vote of confidence, but it's always so very very interesting to me because you kind of want to ground those people. But I've also hired a few of those and kind of turned their thinking around and made diamonds out of them. So that's important.
totally. And I was actually going to lead into that question, and you kind of spoke to it already, which is like, younger generation, first time kind of in the workplace, coming in to work in your restaurants after like something like COVID, where their entire behavior was shaped by COVID, and then not having worked during that period. Do you notice anything different about that sort of like cohort of like Gen Z, as they say?
Yeah, I mean Gen Z's tough. They think they know everything. They take direction semi well, but they don't. They think they know it all, and that's a good thing to have. Confidence is
Yeah,
tough to build in somebody. So it's easier to chip away at their confidence and kind of break them down to let them know what they don't know. And I'm a big proponent of giving people enough rope so that they can go out and be who they are, but not hang themselves. And so some people have a shorter piece of rope, some people have a longer piece of rope. Some of them I
yeah,
don't talk to. Some of them I don't talk to for 2 or 3 weeks. Some of them I talk to daily. So it really
yeah,
depends on the person. But your Gen Zs, there's a lot to be said for their abilities. I mean, they think outside the box. They definitely, we get stuck doing the same thing over and over again and wonder why our result doesn't change because
yeah.
we're stuck in those ways. So I sit down and I actually have a lot of situations. So he actually pulled over. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, I'm doing a Zoom call.
Oh,
I texted you.
oh, I didn't get it.
That's all right. I texted you. All right, sorry. He actually
That's all
turned
right.
around and came behind me. Um, so what I see with them is that they have the confidence, they have all the ability. It's just a matter of chipping away the things that kind of almost will be their roadblocks in the near future of thinking they know it all and realizing that letting them fail just a little bit and then being there to pick up the pieces and kind of give them the reality check. Okay, so now what did we learn from this? So I
Yeah,
feel like one of our jobs and one of the things I used to not do is letting people fail a little bit. Let
yeah,
them do it their way. I definitely am a proponent of everyone doing things their own way. I'm going to give you the result I want, And then what I want from you is to figure out the path. As long
Totally.
as it's within, the banks of the river, you're okay. But as soon as you go off out of the water, then we got to talk about it.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense. And I mean, actually, I subscribe to that ideology myself, to be fair, which is like I have a bunch of, Gen Zs that report up to me, and it's very much a case of, here's what I want, and I don't really mind how you get there. And I would love you to talk me through your
Mhm.
process of how you think about we're going to achieve this plan, to kind of give enough rope, to use that
Yep.
metaphor, give them enough rope to like, here's responsibility. Everyone talks about wanting responsibility. Well, here's your shot. Here's your
Yep.
opportunity to do it. So I subscribe to the same thing. Well, Kurt, that's it.